Well, thanks for joining us here on part 2, 7 for 12 Test of Time with Aakash CHOPRA, talking about the Adelaide Test match in 2003 and what a fantastic team man Rahul Dravid was.
If the Harmison gets his reward, been a brilliant spell of bowling. Harmison bowled a superb opening spell.
5 wickets for Stephen Harmison. Stephen Harmison take a bow.
Started day 4. Rahul's last out. He got 233. India are 33 behind going into, the fourth innings. And you get off to a good start. The ball was just starting to go low at Adelaide. It does that at Adelaide, where it's a good pitch. Yes, fast boundary, square, very, very short. But when if it's sunshine, like you mentioned, it was hot. The ball does go a bit low, and that suited your types of bowlers.
It did, yes. So what you mentioned is absolutely right. So Adelaide's short square boundaries, long straight boundaries. So if the ball is staying low and you're trying to target the square boundaries, that's counterproductive. So that was point one, which I think Australians are far more adept at hitting square than down the ground to begin with. Secondly, yes, if Ajit Agarkar bowled a spell of his life, he was rapid in the air. Got some reverse swing later on as well when things were not going our way and India needed a wicket or two. Sachin Tendulkar came and picked up a wicket or two, I think, and there was one phenomenal catch in the slips. I think it was once again Rahul Dravid. And the other thing that stood out, Harmy, at that time was that Australia was bullish. Australia was arrogant. Australia was thinking that a first innings lead, there's enough time in the play, but they were not entertaining even the thought of a draw or get to a stage where they could not lose or put enough pressure. The only thing that they were thinking, of course, victory, which is fine, but victory in double quick time without really thinking that, a loss might actually be the other end of the bargain, because that thought wasn't crossing their mind at that time. And that was just the reflection of what that Australian team was at that point in time. So they scored for 400 runs on day one. They still wanted to go at 4.5 runs and over on the day 4 pitch, which was not ideally suited. Like, it wasn't as easy scoring. So you had to change your tact a little, but they did not. And that they just fell into a lapse in that respect, that they said never take your opposition lightly. They'll just give them the due respect. So that respect, so to speak, that this Indian team can actually beat you in your own backyard, batting in the 4th innings. The fact did not register for a very, very long time when they were batting, and by the time it did, it was already too late.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I was thinking, I was looking through it and seeing some of the footage of it, and some of the shots that the Australians played. You're right, they were bullish. It was an arrogant. It was a typical arrogant Australia innings, which you'd say they were trying to set up a game and they believed they could win from anywhere. I remember Gilchrist and I can't remember who else was out there. They put on 70 in about 15 overs, and they did. It was just, we've got enough. Let's come off. But do you think that arrogance was misplaced because there was no Warner McGrath?
Yes. The team, when we talk about that Australian team, the world beaters, they went everywhere and beat everyone in their own backyards. So they were the team because they had the players. See, your arrogance is also is stemming from the fact that you're bloody good. There's nobody as good as you in the world. So when they were one, everybody else was trying to be maybe third, because even second slot was theirs. The difference between Australia and other teams was just so huge that just gave them the license to be arrogant. So in a good way, where you know that you're very good and you're not competing with anyone else. Let's raise our standards, because we are too good for anybody that's around. So it stemmed from there, and when there is no McGrath, there is no Shane Warne on a day 5 pitch, you still back your chances. I'm not saying that you don't back yourself to defend 200, 250, whatever that eventually the total was. But you also be slightly mindful of the fact that, we need a bit more. So teams, modern day teams now, you will always find them just erring on the side of caution. But there was no such thing with that Australian side. They had thrown caution to the winds like long time ago, and they were only thinking about it. Doesn't matter. It's Adam Bickle or Brad Williams or Gillespie or McGill or Simon Cattage. We will beat this side. Does not matter. So that was the kind of confidence, belief, or arrogance, if you may want to call it, the team at that point in time had.
They set you 230 to win on a fourth day pitch. You mentioned how good Australia's side was. Did you believe? Did you believe in your side that this was arguably as good a side as India have ever taken to Australia? Bear in mind, you hadn't won in 23 years in Australia. Was this a all-round collective side as good as we've got? Australia might be good, but we are very, very good as well. And walking out to bat, chasing that 230, where was your mindset going into that fourth innings?
Okay, so the whole idea set up for because we went right at the end of the fourth day. Viru and I went out to bat. So we were not thinking about 233, and that's what everybody tells you also, that forget about it, play every ball on its merit and all of that. I can't say for Viru what he feels, because every ball that he sees, it's boundary or a six written on it. So he sees cricket very differently, or he saw cricket very differently. But my idea was just play the ball on its merit, and then see what happens, and just be unbeaten if you can by the end of the day, and then we'll see where we go, because uh, everybody also knows that, see, chasing 230 on a day 5 pitch, it's not going to be easy, no matter who you're playing against, and who's there and who's not. It takes its own special effort to actually come out on the winning side, because on day 4 you also know that Sachin Tendulkar actually picked up a couple of wickets. So the ball was doing a bit more than whatever it did in the first 3 days of the same test match. And if it's baking hot, then the ball is one staying low. It will start reverse swinging soon, and spinners will have a bit more role to play. And McGill can turn the ball, man. He could turn a mile. So it just takes a couple of good balls, and everything can actually go the other way. So honestly speaking, on day 4 evening, there were no thoughts. There were no thoughts of a victory. There were no thoughts of a loss. There were no thoughts that how good we are and what has transpired so far. We were happy that we were batting on day 4 evening, because a realistic result in our favor was a possibility. And we were not going to bat for a draw. That is something that you always hate, that 500 runs or 400 runs on day 4, and you're thinking, no, man, you can't win it. Now find a way to just stay relevant for as long as possible. But here the whole idea was, okay, first target, get to the end of the day's play, whatever 10, 12, 5, 7, 8, 9, I don't know, remember the number of overs were to be bowled. Just ensure no damage done with the second, with the new ball in the second innings. And we reached that far. So day 4 actually was perhaps after day 3 and day 4 actually were phenomenal days for us, to be honest.
And then you go into day 5. You got out LBW for 20. Verinder got 9, and then Rahul walks in. Rahul walks in with the Australians cheering. That, for me, that's just respect. If the Australians are cheering you, that's just respect. So there is a level of trepidation from Australia that Rahul Dravid is walking to the crease. And Sachin, who, is there ever not any pressure on Sachin to get runs in an Indian cricket team? Because that's what everything happens with Sachin. Sachin got a few runs in there as well. I think he got 37. What was it like? Just try and somehow explain what it's like to be Sachin Tendulkar, and what was it like just to sort of be in a dressing room and around him?
Well, being Sachin Tendulkar, uh, nobody can perhaps get in his skin and feel and understand what it means in this country. Harmy, he's larger than life. He's bigger than the sport. He's come through an era. A lot of people in this country, and that will run into millions, who followed the sport because they just followed Sachin. And whenever Sachin went out to play, it was as if like he was carrying the burden of the entire nation on his shoulders. And by that time, 2003, he had already done that for 14 years. So as a young kid, he just took over everyone's imagination. And after that, uh, he was that. That's it. He gets out, the TV sets would get switched off, and it happened for a long time till Rahul Dravid, VVS Lakshman, and Saurav came along. It was just Sachin and nobody else, and he was that good. But it didn't really stop there, because as a country we were still growing as a new young country. You all countries in the end, they need icons, they need heroes to move forward in whichever sphere, because they are your beacon of hope. They are your their inspiration to succeed. Now it could be in a very different field altogether, like Neeraj Chopra yesterday or day before yesterday. He's our first athlete, track and field athlete, to win an Olympic gold. So now what that means to a nation is very, very difficult to explain, because it's not happened in 70 years of Indian independence. And this is something that we lived a dream, but we never thought we'll reach that far. But Sachin made that happen. Sachin made all of us believe that, this can be done. Sunil Gavaskar did that before that, and Kapil Dev. But then Sachin just took it to the next level. And we see, so there is no moment. What you said is right. You're talking about just going out and playing. There is pressure. Even when he's not playing, he's under pressure, because everybody's watching him. He can't live life. There is no life for Sachin.
I remember just a little story. I remember after we went back after the terrorist attack to play in Chennai in 2008, and India chased 360, which was unheard of in the fourth innings, and he got 100 to knock it off at the end. And I remember him coming into the dressing room afterwards, and he was in tears. And here he is standing in front of me, about a foot smaller than me, thanking us for coming back and what it meant to us. And I didn't know whether to hug him. I didn't know whether to punch him. I didn't know whether to just take him home and meet me mum and dad. It was like the iconic figure of the game has just taken you for 100, and he's now thanking you in such a humble way of bringing it back. So I always talk about him in such fond ways because of what he means to the game of cricket, not just to India, but to the game of cricket. And everybody you hear about talking about is brilliant. But you mentioned the players that icon players that came along at that same time, and during that last that fourth innings, Rahul batted at one end, and then everybody came. Sarav got out cheaply. Lakshman came in, he got out, and then at the end, right at the very end, you getting closer. Can you get yourself in a position where you feel carried away that you're going to win your first time in a long time in Australia while you've still got Rahul Dravid at the crease?
Yes, but again, it was with a bit of trepidation that it may just all go bad, because all it takes is a couple of good balls. And then we had this whiteboard in that Adelaide dressing room where after a while we had those, we put 10, 10, 10, we've just rows of tens, and every run had to be crossed out. Everybody was sitting where they were sitting for, I think, God knows, 2-3 hours till the final runs were scored, and you're keeping your fingers crossed, toes crossed, because you know that you're very close to creating something. You're a part of history, but you're only a part of history if you win it, right? And whatever little role you may have played, even the guy who's taking water to the ground, I mean, he's also part of that historical test match. As long as you cross the line, and when you're sitting outside and you're not in the heat of the action, you feel slightly helpless as well, because all you can do is pray and wish and hope that things go right. And then sitting at one spot for 3 hours might just allow Rahul Dravid to play one more good shot. So we were, of course, like bundle of emotions, but not trying to get ahead of ourselves. Don't get too excited before it actually happened. But then if Rahul was there, there was this feeling that he's there. When he's there, we'll be fine in the end. Don't worry. So it's like Rahul, VVS, Sachin, Saurav. Till they're there, we're okay. They'll figure it out. So we were still the babies of the team. They were like the elders of the family. So it's like the younger kids in the family, your daughters, granddaughters, everybody actually, they say, okay, while he's there, I'm okay, because he's there. So it is like Rahul. Rahul is there. Sachin is there. We will be fine. So that was the kind of feeling. The quiet, calm confidence, but yes, you do get excited, and you do get nervy. You do get a little bit like a few butterflies in your stomach, that I really hope that everything goes right.
And how fitting was it to be at the end? You get over the line, Dravid hits the winning runs, Agarkar's at the other end, getting six for. You're overriding emotions of that test match and that feeling when the winning run was hit, when two of the guys who have probably contributed the most, being in the middle, bats aloft, and you're now beating Australia in Australia.
Another short one, it's through this time, and that will do it. And fittingly, the winning runs hit by Rahul Dravid. What a wonderful moment for Indian cricket.
Oh, it was phenomenal. I still remember that shot actually. A short ball punched through the covers region. He was wearing a county cap, a blue county cap, and he just lifted his cap and the bat. And yes, the stadium erupted. Of course, Ajit, who orchestrated the collapse in the second innings, two main performers along with say VVS Lakshman in the first innings wouldn't have happened without him. And the dressing room also erupted with joy at that time because before that, yeah, you were almost on your feet and just waiting for that moment to happen. And when that happens, once again, it's like making your debut for your country. It takes time for that to sink in. Like just the importance of that occasion. Because see, in a test match, that's the beauty of a test match that you start that battle 5 days ago on a fine morning, and then you get beaten to pulp on day one. Then you start crawling your way back. There are many battles that you lose along the way. Then you start winning a few, and by the end of it all, and you win. So it's not that sudden. I think in a test match, it's never that sudden because you've seen that bubble and grow over 5 days. That how that journey has been. But the importance of that shot, that victory, and its place in the Indian cricket history, it takes time to actually realize that, oh wow, I mean, this is what has happened now, and it has never happened before. And as the time progresses, you realize it a bit more. At a personal level, you also feel a little. So I'll tell you one strange feeling that crossed my mind at that time as well, or a little later, not at that time, maybe a few hours later when I was in bed. I should have contributed a bit more, man. This is a win, and my contribution is only so much. So that's also like we are all like strange, like human beings are wired very strangely, I think. While you're so happy that your team has won, you're a part of a historic test match, but at some corner of your heart, you also are feeling, I should have done a bit more. Yeah, okay, I took a couple of catches, I had scored those 20s, but oh, come on, I should have scored that 50, 60, 70, and in a winning cause. So, yeah, it's like a bundle of all kinds of emotions just rushing in and sweeping you away for the next few hours.
And Australia went on to win in Melbourne. You couldn't win. You couldn't get the forced result in the decider at the SCG. It must have been a wonderful time for Indian cricket to be in Australia and going head to head with the best team in the world. Was that the best team you feel as though you played in, and was it the best team that India sent or that India produced?
It is very close to that for sure. Yes, that was a memorable series, and even in the last Test match, if it wasn't for a few umpiring decisions, and if I'm talking about them like 18 years after, then obviously they stayed very fresh. Justin Langer was hit flush in front. Ajit Agarkar delivery once again. He had this thing that he would actually be like right stuck at the crease, trying to flick and got hit or like just below the knee roll. I thought it was dead. And then one more time again, but wasn't given out. And it was a tough pitch after the initial times. It was a flat Sydney pitch, so we couldn't force a result. But a drawn series in Australia, oh wow! I mean, that is phenomenal because one thing that comes to your mind is that when you were taking that flight, boarding that flight to Australia, people said you'll be beaten 4-0, and now here you're standing tall, your head's held high. That you've managed to draw the series. You've actually been in a dominating position for at least the two or three test matches. We got the first in lead in first. We won the second test. We lost the third test, but then in the fourth test there was only one winner. That was India. There was no way Australia was winning that test match. Scoreline might reflect that it was 1-all, but India was a dominating side for the first time ever on the Australian soil. And even though I was a part of it, so I'll be a little biased. But when you look at the quality of that team and add a couple of more players to it, yes, that was the best test side that India has ever produced. Because Virender Sehwag, Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Lakshman, Saurav Ganguly. Then we had Parthiv Patel. So if you were to replace me with say a Gautam Gambhir as an opener and Parthiv with say a Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Harbhajan Singh, Anil Kumble, Zahir Khan, and Ajit Agarkar or whoever else, then replace one with say maybe Ajit with Bumrah or whoever, and that's it. This is the best. You can't argue. So this is yes, that was difficult to compare eras, slightly unfair as well because of the times that we live in. but that was one heck of a side, and a side that I think you could easily call that the golden era, the golden age of Indian cricket.
Well, I played in that era, so I'd say it's the golden era. Happy memories, great times. Aakash, thank you very much for joining us on A Test of Time. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much, Harmy, and more power to you, more power to your channel. Just keep doing what you're doing and saying as you see it. I love it.